Next up, we're about to explore how AI is not just making our lives easier, but also making our interactions with products and services feel like they actually get us. Kind of like that friend who remembers your coffee order but doesn't judge your choices. Time to dive into transforming user experiences. AI use cases that create value with Rebecca Liu-Doyle, Mario Ciabarra, May Habib, and Jack Hanlon.
Well, thank you all for being here. Very excited for this conversation. To start, how about each of you give us a sense, give us a real tangible sense of how AI is transforming user experiences and the pace of this innovation by talking us through what the quote-unquote best users of your tools are doing today and how that actually contrasts with maybe what they were doing even a year ago. Mario, you want to start?
Thanks, Rebecca. It's great to be here. Absolutely. I think about what quantum does is it helps organizations understand at scale, and we use the word analytics, but at scale, what is a customer doing on their digital property, on their website or their app? And one of the things that we do is we help them see exactly what it looks like to be a customer on their digital presence. And so if you connect those dots and you start thinking about, okay, well, you can actually replay what a user was doing on your website or app. It's amazing. It's enlightening. It's like this eye-opening experience. Like, wow, I didn't know they would click that or do that, or they'd get frustrated here or there. But it's really, really boring to watch a user on your website or app. In fact, last year, people watched 420,000 hours of what people did on a website or app. Imagine you can condense that down to 5 seconds using generative AI to summarize what is the user doing, where is their friction point, and does this represent a large portion of our user set? So the ability to summarize, and I know we're going to hear that word a lot today with GenAI, but to summarize an experience in just a few seconds.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. For those who don't know, Writer, we are a full-stack enterprise generative AI platform. So what that means is we combine LLMs with retrieval and guardrails and observability to make it just much faster to build applications. And so our end user experience is multifaceted. There's the end users of our customers who use the applications built with the platform. And then there's two types of very interesting users on the Writer platform. And I'd like to focus on that because I think it's indicative of where the market is going. There's, of course, the technologists who are really excited to have, not to do the data pre-processing and the chunking and just so much of the inefficient tasks that are associated with building generative AI apps today because we've abstracted them and made those building blocks so much easier. And then there is that non-technical but very sophisticated business user that we have seen partner with technologists to build really sophisticated stuff. Our first company, Wasim and I, my co-founder, was in the machine translation space, and this really was hammered home a few weeks ago. We had a VP of product, so sophisticated but not highly technical, and certainly not LLM native, build a application that basically was most of our entire first company. She built a translation application on Writer as a non-technical user. So it's super exciting, and we say if you can write it, if you can describe it, you can build it, and we are able to really introduce an entire new user persona to our companies, this AI builder persona that is able to use these building blocks in really sophisticated ways.
So Netta, I know you had Chloe before, so I don't need to belabor the point. I think you may be familiar with the company. But I will say something about the pace. Something of the pace that bears mentioning is that I've been in machine learning and AI for my whole career in a lot of different contexts, and I've simply never seen pace like this. I've never seen this rate of change. There are times where we come out with something that's state-of-the-art, and 3 weeks later, it's not state-of-the-art anymore. Somebody else is doing something different. I've never seen sort of the breathlessness with which innovation comes and then is in second place or third place. But when we talk about a year ago to today, I'd say everything has changed for us. If you look at the Llama open source models, which hopefully you folks have tried out, We have over 350 million downloads on Hugging Face alone right now. So we've seen over 10x growth year over year. Similarly with Meta AI Assistant, what a year ago was sort of a concept, an idea we wanted to explore, are now at over 500 million monthly actives. And so we're just seeing every space that we're putting technology out there to try and help users connect and help users create, help developers create, help artists create. It's growth that we couldn't have possibly anticipated because it's changing so fast. And it's incredibly exciting, but it also, it also can be a little scary at times with how fast it moves. I'm sure you folks feel it too.
Absolutely. And the three of you are all at the helm, I would say, of products that are driving really measurable ROI already, right? And there are some who are still building, still trying to figure out what is that ROI, how do I measure it? Can you give us an example of how you're doing that within your product today, a specific use case where AI has really transformed the ROI?
Yeah, I mentioned the ability to understand a customer in seconds, but if I can make that come to life and to answer the question on ROI, imagine when you call your bank or your airline or your telecommunications company and they know why you're calling without you saying a word. Because I'm going to place a good bet that the majority of us in the room, we try to self-service. We interact with a website or app with our carrier. Like, let's say I fly a lot on United Airlines. I'm in Denver and Boulder area. And if I'm going to have a problem that I can't get done in the app, I've got to call in. And what the call looks like prior to Quantum is that you press 1 through 9 on the phone, and they say, "Hi Mario, how are you? Oh, it's for today's travel. Hold on, let me transfer you. Hi Mario, how are you?" Imagine instead they route you to a specialist that knows why you're calling, because a minute ago I was just in the app trying to change my flight, but I got an error. So they greet me with, "Hi Mario, looks like you're trying to change your app or your flight back to Denver, but you got an error in the app. Can I help you with that or something else?" So this ROI, what we're seeing as this gets deployed, one bank has seen a 23% reduction in their average handle time. Another airline has seen a reduction from 7.5 minutes of their chat conversation, as people do conversational chat, from 7.5 minutes to 5. And another company has shaved 3 minutes off of their service time with a caller. So that ROI is massive, not just for savings, but think about the consumer. How happy would you be if when you call your provider, they know why you're calling? So CSAT's up, costs are down. There's a big win for everyone. So the ROI has been massive. And I was a naysayer of AI, maybe a year or two ago. What could this really do? Is this another fad? But to hear, to see these ROIs realistically come to life. I know the panel is discussing, like real world examples of customer experience changes. It's real, it's happening, and it's great to be a beneficiary.
Yeah. I love legal and compliance use cases. And it's very easy to kind of read that and say, oh, that's very dry or, low business impact. But you really dig in and it's extraordinary. Take Mars, a big customer of ours, and think about, what it actually takes to get ads about dog food to market. Literally. If you've got a photo of a dog that is going in a social campaign, you've got regional legal that needs to sign off on whether we've used the right breed of dog by country, because there's actually laws about that. Are the dogs overweight? Are the cats in accessories? There's actual laws about this that add weeks, sometimes months, to these review processes. And so certainly the ROI of using a vision model to automatically scan for legal and compliance by region, by brand, et cetera, is huge productivity enhancements, because you're not paying lawyers or compliance officers to do this. But way more importantly, you're getting products out to the market faster. It changes the way you do marketing to actually be able to take 6 to 8 weeks to ship campaigns rather than 4 to 6 months. It changes the way that you do product marketing. The other big ROI comes from the fact that you actually don't have legal and compliance kind of like hamstringing the marketers from being able to say more compelling things about these products. So when you are in a heavily regulated market, like a lot of our healthcare and pharma companies are, folks are self-censoring themselves and preventing themselves from actually making claims about their products that highly differentiate them from competitors. And we've got customers who use AI in that regulatory and compliance function to be able to make the case that these products should be positioned or could be positioned in this way. So you've got productivity, you've got accelerated time to market, you've got additional sales. Now, being able to actually measure all of this stuff and be able to take, those snapshots of what it looked like before and after, that is like a whole separate kind of value engineering effort that folks don't always have, the personnel for, and we provide that to be able to help them make the case for, all the ways that generative AI produces ROI.
Maria May did a lovely job talking about that. I'd say, to sum up our experience internally, consistent with what they were talking about, is that how do we let humans focus on what humans are great at? And internally, when we see the ROI, it almost all boils down to that idea. I think the reality is that humans were not necessarily put on this earth to use Concur, right? and so like when I spend time using that or some of the other administrative tools I have to use, like that doesn't necessarily connect me with my sense of like what I'm great at and things like this. And so more and more the ROI we see is internal productivity made manifest through letting people do what humans are uniquely good at, which has to do with relationships, which has to do with insights, which has to do with the training that we've done on how to build great products and ship great products and scale great products and do it safely. And so how do we clear people's path and clear calendars to make sure they can focus on the things that they're truly great at? In terms of the ROI we see internally on those use cases, it's tremendous. Externally, I think the future thing I'm most excited about, we just came out of Connect with the ability to take creators' reels and translate them into other languages, translate it using GenAI to do lip sync and have it come out in their voice. And this is likely to be the most transformative increase in distribution of content and access to content that the world can have available. It's a Tower of Babel in reverse like concept. And so in terms of thinking about ROI, I'm incredibly excited to be able to no longer be limited by regional or language barriers and instead be able to learn from and be entertained by anybody in the world.
Rebecca's on my board, so I think I can ask her a question without going too far out of line. Have you used meta.ai?
Yeah, of course.
You have, okay, because I'll tell you the ROI very directly, and I hope I'm not judged in the room, but I've convinced my mom that I bought a helicopter, and she wanted a video of it, and I went to meta.ai, and I said, put a helicopter over, I live in Boulder, in the Flatirons, and I sent her an animated video, and she really thinks that I now own a helicopter, and that ROI is unmeasurable, So I hope you don't judge me for, because I have to have fun with my mom, because we have a great relationship. She lives down the street, but that's a great ROI. I mean,
and your board's happy you didn't actually buy the helicopter.
Yeah, no, we're all happy I don't own a helicopter. Yes.
One day.
Yes, maybe.
I like this common thread of, I think each of you touched on, it's not just about the productivity and the efficiency. It is actually about value creation on the other end and what happens when you unload all of these manual tasks that humans probably shouldn't be spending time doing anyway. We've now started to see this shift, right, from this concept of AI co-pilots, purely assistant-style behavior, into actually integrating AI into decision-making processes themselves. Are you starting to do that, either internally or seeing your customers do that? And are there examples of when AI has actually encouraged some sort of strategic shift in priority or different sort of product decisioning?
I believe that to get an organization to adopt GenAI, you have to experiment. And I think there's been a history where you can give the task of learning a new technology, implementing a new technology to someone else. But I really believe, because of what we're seeing today, both May and Jack, and of course, across the world, it's changing so quickly that if you delegate this to someone else, hey, in 3 months, 6 months, 2 weeks, give me a report, you'll miss a window. So I think it's our responsibility as a leadership to both experiment and encourage these changes. And because of that, not only did we end up with what I discussed earlier around in the call center, but we're seeing other ways to implement generative AI, like beyond productivity, but like in the core product. So for analytics, for example, one of the biggest challenges is getting the right data. Like how do you run your business when you don't have the right data? And it's just like chicken and egg problem with data capture and analytics. Why don't we let generative AI collect the right data for us? We use humans to tell us, I'll give a retail example, like, hey, look, there's the cart value. Here are the items that they added to cart, and so on and so forth. Generative AI is really good at picking those types of things out on a web page or an app. Why don't we delegate that to generative AI? So we're really seeing changes in how we run our business, and I don't think it just happens because GenAI, poof, showed up, and we wished for the best and it happened. But like, I think this is a, get engaged, adopt GenAI at the leadership level. I like to ask my team, give me some examples of where GenAI is changing the way you run your business. Because if we just let somebody in some room do this, like we might miss out. So real ROI is happening, but I do think it's not just one and done. It's constant iteration. Hey, where can we use GenAI in our business that would be transformational for our customers, for our platform?
Yeah, and maybe I answer this both for our clients and then also for us. The decision-making use cases are amazing in healthcare and in financial services. So in financial services, you are hundreds of claim adjusters and adjudicators for State Farm. Being able to use Writer to go through policies and police reports and evidence to take something that would have taken 6 or 7 hours down to 2 or 3 hours. There's still a human in the loop, absolutely, but there's so much power in being able to query over those hundreds, sometimes thousands of pages, and then to be able to use AI to create the summary decision that feeds much lengthier processes. And being able to do AI like that at scale to production grade quality, at quality that can beat humans, right? We go back in evals and have to compare the beta AI app to actual cases. And we want to beat what humans are able to do because AI doesn't get tired and doesn't make mistakes. And so from a decision-making perspective, it can really change the way our customers solution their products, right? If that customer now has got a 4-day SLA on a claim turnaround rather than a 12-day SLA, right? It fundamentally changes how they take those products to market and how they shape it. For us internally, it has definitely changed decision making, and not necessarily because we've built lots of different generative AI apps. We absolutely have, but there is a speed that generative AI requires that has completely rewired the company and the way that we take specific functions in the company and just declare them always in 0 to 1 mode. Because it is constant change, and there are a lot of customers here today, you guys have heard me say that the speed of disruption is the disruption. And I don't think generative AI speed is just for generative AI companies. It's for any enterprise company that wants to lead its market because the pace of change is just so incredible.
Yeah, and I would say, outside of the Llama open source models, obviously a lot of our customers are consumers, but when I think about consumers, I think about them getting a lot of leverage out of the jobs that they need to do. And I hear all of these stories when we do the research. It's amazing to see the variety with which people get leverage out of these. On a personal side, my sister just submitted her thesis for grad school, for example, and I was talking to her and I was curious, sort of like, hey, did AI factor in? How did you think about it? And she's like, oh, I had to do all of these interviews, and it helped me summarize and pull out the key points that I was looking for and do the coding of the interviews to be able to go through it. And I was like, and your advisor was good with that? I was like, yeah, as long as we mention we're using it, it's what everyone's doing now. I mean, even people at the education level, I've seen other people construct frameworks for their real estate investment side hustle and have the AI say, okay, write me a script to go collect this data on a X number of days basis, and then using this framework, sort of give me the chart for what the most valuable investments could be, the most valuable opportunities. So now you see people where maybe it's not their core gig, maybe you're removing the cost to entry on, hey, now you no longer need to go to learn the code to be able to collect that data. Maybe you don't need to go out there and pound pavement and figure out where this value is, and instead you just have this opportunity to fly for a couple hours a week for this thing you're interested in. And for one guy, he actually told us he was building enough confidence in it, starting to make enough money off of it, that he was going to consider leaving his full-time job and doing that. Just unlocking opportunities for people to explore, especially in areas that excite them, but the barrier of entry was simply too high. That's something that's been incredibly exciting to see.
Mario, you touched a bit on this challenge around adoption, right? And how you really get this across the organization. And I know for both you and for May, your products work best when there is true cross-departmental adoption. How do you drive that motion, and how does this look different in the context of AI now?
Analytics it's difficult. Like, I don't know who here, A, needs more analytics, come talk to me afterwards, that's kind of a joke, but B, finds it easy to analyze data. Like, analytics comes into play when you're at scale. Like, if you have 3 people interacting with your brand, you probably don't need analytics, but when you have 3 million every day, that's when analytics comes into play. It's not like a native sense of analyzing data, it just doesn't come natural. So how do we use GenAI to analyze the data on behalf of the human? And the human in the loop is so important. Even when I was describing earlier on collecting data and getting generative AI to describe where structured data exists, we still use humans in the loop because we're not confident of its 100% accuracy, which over time maybe we'll grow into. But there's this challenge, whether it's collecting the right data or analyzing the right data. It's difficult. How do we make this more simple? And I think the journey that we're on here in 2025 with generative AI is, I think in the last decade we've created a platform that takes data and makes that same information available to a product owner, to a marketer, to a DevOps, to a voice of customer, to an executive. It's, if you think about analyzing a user's experience or a user's journey on your digital platform, that's valuable for all of these personas. But it's hard. I mean, you think about a DevOps person, they might be more aligned to understanding data on where problems are. But think about a designer. They're typically not dealing with graphs and charts and trying to analyze interactions. How do we make that data speak to that audience? And using generative AI to just, we know what kind of questions they have. Instead of them having to form the questions in our platform and do the analysis, can't we have GenAI take some of that workload away from them, understanding kinds of questions? Like, I'll give you an example. Understanding if there's content below a fold that's highly interactive, that's high conversion, attractive content, wouldn't you want that above the fold? It seems so simple, but today to do the analysis, you have to kind of compare below the fold, above the fold, and so on and so forth. Couldn't we get GenAI to help do some of that analysis for us? So just really simplifying how we consume this data for each of the personas. It's successful today where we have thousands of people at some of our organizations consuming it across 8 to 10 different teams. But we get feedback like there's an easier way to do this. And so I think for us, seeing generative AI make that more consumable by different audiences, that's what we'll see more in 2025.
Yeah. Adoption is huge for us. We have consumer-grade end-user adoption, WOWs in the 70s and 80s, DAOs in the 40s and 50s. We raised a Series C that we announced today. And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you, guys. And our end-user adoption was a huge, huge part of what drove, the competitiveness of that product, of that process. And for us, what we tell our teams is your job is to bring the AI literacy, the AI tools, and the donuts to the customer, right? And it's literally a no user left behind, because you work so hard, right, to work with our IT customers and our buyers to build production grade, high quality, better than the human way apps, and then you really got to put your back into it to get people to change. And so much of it is just the muscle memory, right? If, let's say, we have a lot of these use cases, market commentaries and company deep dive, right, in financial services. Well, yeah, this app that you guys build is freaking great, and it produces way better and more in-depth information than I usually do, but I could also just go back to last quarters and update that one, and like, you know, the client won't even notice. And like getting people in that muscle memory of like using the app that's in their workbench, in their workflow, that produces much more personalized client information that is going to result in more revenue and more engagement for the company, right? That literally just requires them doing it 2 or 3 times. And you kind of standing over their shoulder, making sure, right, that they're clicking in the right spots. And even if it's 800 clicks down to 4, right, it's still 4 that are completely new versus the 800 where they know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's that muscle memory that we aim to make sure happens, and we partner with Accenture and others to help with the change management when, you know, we're trying to change how thousands of people do something. But ignoring that, you know, it's just very hard to get to the value. End user adoption is that other half of the coin.
And Jack, maybe you can speak a bit about how this impacts the actual product development process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed with this topic, so I'm going to try and be brief. But effectively, if you look at the most transformative technologies of the last 30 years, you see that building on top of them just looks fundamentally different than building products before. If you look at the rise of online advertising, the rise of cloud computing, the shift to mobile, the shift to video, and the shift to machine learning and relevance-based media or feeds and things like this. There was the way we built products before that technology, and then there was the way we built products after. And at first, when we started building products using that new technology, the products sucked. And do you remember what early mobile websites were like? It was horrible, right? And that could be said of all of these various forms of tech, because at the fundamental basis, you have a group of people who really understand a new technology, an actual, I hate to use the phrase, but an actual paradigm shift, you know, of people who really understand it. And then you have people who are doing the old thing. Let's use online advertising, for example. You have marketers who are buying on TV, being called by people at some new company called Google saying, you should spend a ton of money with us to buy ads on a search engine. The marketer's like, what are you talking about? And the idea sounds horrible. How am I going to reach people, et cetera? But similarly, on the side of people building the advertising networks and things like this, they didn't actually understand marketing at all. It's not these people needing to catch up. It's these groups needing to come together. And so I think similarly, a lot of the AI products that are getting put out today aren't great. And they're not great because you still have 2 distinct audiences. People who need to still learn more about how to ship great AI products and what's fundamentally different about them. And then you have people who know AI and everything else, but probably have never shipped a real scalable product in their lives. And so it's not until these groups come together and meet in the middle, not one learns it and goes to the other side, but it's not until these groups come together and meet in the middle that we're going to see really, really great work and great products come out. And when you see something special come out, you can be sure that behind the scenes, that's what's happening.
So the 3 of you are all clearly innovating successfully despite this breakneck pace of innovation that is around us. What words of wisdom do you have for folks who are also trying to innovate in this context? What are some secret ingredients to your own success?
I think I heard it earlier from Chris Ross. You know, I'll paraphrase it into a different light. It's really all about data. And I know I'm a bit biased coming from a data and analytics company, but this just doesn't work because you have data and you have an idea. There's iterations and thought that goes into it, but having the right data is the unlock. And so I think I heard from Chris about, you know, that centralization of data at the Mayo Clinic. That's how you get to success. It's having the right data in the right spot and asking the right questions of that data, and that's how you unlock that value.
I think for us, the secret has been really figuring out how to, as quickly as possible, solve the whole problem. Because if you only solve in generative AI part of the customer's problem, it's just very hard for them to get the value started that snowballs the whole effort. So for us, that's, as a consequence meant that we've had to have very strong product velocity driven by very strong customer intimacy. And so we've just had to build and hire against those cultural attributes.
Both great answers, so I'll keep it simple and just say, to May's point, the things that have been most successful for us are things where we had a strong understanding of the customer already and are helping them do the things they want to do, but better. And we have a million examples of that, down to even just simple things like being able to create your own custom AI-generated sticker, which sounds simple until you find out that for the Middle East and India, it's like a huge majority of the communication mechanisms between family and friends is stickers. And
oh, no, literally. I mean, we use in WhatsApp, like when anyone ever sends me a thumbs up, it's my daughter giving me a thumbs up via this feature. I love it.
Yeah, and so it's like, if you just understand what people want and can make it easier and make it feel like they're doing more expressing themselves, that's magic. And then to Maria's point about data, if your CEO or somebody else had been squeamish before about investing in core things on data, you now finally have the excuse you never had before. You were asked about the ROI of all that stuff, of cleaning the data and compiling it and putting it together, and it was hard to make that case, and it's not hard to make it anymore. And the fact is that if you don't do it now and you wait until the whole thing seems more obvious, then in 3 years when it is obvious, and the use cases are super obvious and your competitors are going for it, and you're trying to start on a data cleanup process that's going to take multiple years, you've already lost. So I would use the excuse and Trojan horse this into your leadership to try and get the investment now, because TikTok.
I'm only laughing because you said 3 years, and I'm thinking, but you also said it's changing so fast that it might be 3 months.
It could be 3 months. It really could. It really could.
Thank you all so much, and congratulations again, May, on the Series C announcement.
Very nice. Very nice.